Have you been decluttering for years, but feel like you never actually make any progress? Well, we should talk more about that. Hello friends, I'm Mary Beth and welcome to At What Cost. Now I hear from folks pretty frequently that they have been decluttering for years and years and years, and sometimes even decades, but never seem to feel like they get ahead of their decluttering, which is frustrating. And I know that it's frustrating because I too ran the hamster wheel of decluttering for a long time. It was this kind of ebb and flow of things coming in and things going out, but we were much heavier on the things coming inside than actually going out. And for a long time, a lot of the things that I thought would solve my problem of having too much stuff in my home just didn't. I would organize things. I would try and find all the newest ideas on Pinterest or go shop all of the Container Store's webpage looking for some magical thing that was going to change all of my decluttering issues. And I just could not ever find it. Now, in our Sunday school class at church, we started talking about apologetics. And although you would think that apologetics and decluttering are not really all that related, well, something clicked for me, and I want to share it with you. This concept is something that I feel like I have been practicing and refining for several years now as we've decluttered our home, but I never really understood how all of these things sort of came together until we started talking about apologetics. So stick with me here because I know for some people that word may be a little bit scary. It feels like one of those big, weighty, heavy topics that we just don't find ourselves being very well equipped to talk about. But that is not the case. I think as we get into understanding a little bit more about this concept of apologetics, specifically our worldview, I think you'll understand a lot more of it than you maybe think you will. And we're going to talk about how this relates back to decluttering and how we can get off this crazy hamster wheel of decluttering. So what really clicked for me is this pyramid example that we're going to talk about more from the book Beyond Belief to Conviction by Josh McDowell and Bob Hosteller, I think. I may be wrong about that pronunciation, and I apologize if I am. Not that Bob is watching this. I doubt Bob is watching this. Maybe he is. Hey, Bob. So first off, let's define what apologetics actually is, because it's important that we understand and we're on the same page with what we're talking about. Apologetics is quite simply being able to give a defense for the hope that you have. That's really it in an essence. It's a merging of our intellectual thoughts and theology and how we may defend and explain those beliefs to others. And if we're going to have a good foundation for apologetics, we want to start with understanding our worldview. So that's where this pyramid comes into play and really thinking through our worldview. And that's the key to this decluttering kind of hamster wheel dilemma. So as you can see at the foundation here, we have our beliefs. Our beliefs are the jumping off point, so to speak, for our values. So what we believe is going to inform the things that we value. And at the very top there, both of these things, our beliefs and our values, drive our actions. Are you starting to see where I'm going with this? Because as soon as I saw it, I could not unsee it. Now, there's two elements to this. There's the visible and the invisible. So we're going to talk more about that in just a moment, but let's get a better idea of what a worldview actually is in more of a definition. Now, I believe this definition came from R.C. Sproul and some of his work on apologetics. So the definition that he shares here is a person's worldview represents his most fundamental beliefs and assumptions about the universe he inhabits. It reflects how we would answer all of the big questions of human existence, fundamental questions about who we are, where we came from, and why we're here, where, if any, we're headed, the meaning and purpose of life, the nature and the afterlife, and what counts as a good life in the here and now. Now, those seem like pretty big topics about our faith, and that they wouldn't necessarily be related to something simple like decluttering extra stuff out of our house. But it really is, especially when we look at that pyramid of beliefs, values, and actions. So if our worldview is driven by these beliefs and values, and we're using those things to answer the most fundamental questions about life, if we think about our stuff and how we view our things, it actually makes quite a bit of sense. What we believe to be true about our stuff and our homes and our personal belongings, how we engage with all of those things, forms certain values around those items. And our actions naturally flow out of that. So here's an example about how this belief, value, and actions may come into play in something simple like cleaning products. I believe that a clean home is going to be good for my family. So I place a pretty high value on cleaning products in my home. I want to use good cleaning products. I want to use things that are safe for my family. I may even have developed some other values around cleaning products that I'm not even fully aware of. Those beliefs and values are going to drive my actions. So when I purchase a new cleaning product in hopes that it works, I may continue on using it even if it doesn't, or not using it, hoping that in the future it may work. It just may give me a little bit more of a hold on these actual cleaning products because I have such a high value for cleaning my home, which means things can become very difficult to get rid of when we have attached this belief and value to them that may not necessarily be the most appropriate attachment. Let me explain more about that. So one of the things that Josh McDowell and Bob Hosteller, I don't know. One of the things that they talk about in this book is the way that our beliefs can become distorted. So if we have a distorted worldview, it is going to give us distorted beliefs that lead to this is like a tongue twister. So if we have a somewhat distorted worldview, meaning the lens that we look at all of life through, it's going to lead to some distorted beliefs. Our distorted beliefs are then going to lead to distorted, I cannot say it, y'all, distorted values, and ultimately the actions that we take are coming from this very distorted foundation. So they use an example here from Newsweek regarding teens' beliefs about God. And if you spend any time on the internet, there is a reel floating around that talks about how somebody likes to picture Jesus in a tuxedo t-shirt because they like to party and they will like to believe that their Jesus likes to party. It's very funny and very sad, all wrapped up together. But this quote says, "One thought God was like a grandfather. He's there, but I never see him. Another took a harder view, describing an evil being who wants to punish me all the time. Two more opinions followed. Finally, the last teen weighed in. I think you're all right, because that's really what you believe. In other words, God is whatever works for you. On this, all the youth agreed." Which, again, is sad, but very reflective of our culture today in the sort of you do you and live your truth kind of mentality. But can you see how having a worldview centered around God really being whatever you want him to be, how that can impact your beliefs, your values, and ultimately your actions? Now, that example is very clearly towards apologetics, but as we are considering the way that our beliefs, our values, and our actions start to go to work in our homes, we can see the way that a distorted belief about our stuff can lead us to have some false values and ultimately cause us to take actions that are not really in line with how we would want to really live. Now, let's talk about this idea of the invisible and the visible. So below the line here, below the visibility line, so to speak, we have our beliefs and our values. And then our actions are on top, more visible, right? So these are the things that are more tangible. Other people can see them. Below that sort of invisible line, we have to express those things, and people can't always just see what we believe or understand what we believe based on our belief and our values alone. It really takes our actions for those things to become visible. So if we think about our beliefs and our values, they're more invisible. So this is the way that we think about our stuff or feel about our stuff. Our actions are the more visible aspects of it. And ultimately, our clutter. That's the visible outcome of some distorted beliefs that we may have. In essence, our stuff is a visible sign of our values and our beliefs. So to really tie this concept together here and put it in like a nice, pretty little package, if our beliefs and our values get distorted, then our actions will also become distorted. And voila, we have clutter that we cannot conquer. So how do we take all of this and turn it into some practical elements? Well, first off, we need to really address the foundational elements of our beliefs and our values. Identifying what do we actually believe about this stuff. So I used the example earlier of cleaning products, but let's look at something a little different, like toys. Now, listening to marketing commercials, like just turn on any show for kids and listen to the marketing that is put out there for them regarding toys. And I'm sure I've been subject to it just like I have. Saturday morning cartoons, that was how I knew that I needed all of those My Little Ponies. So we're being fed these messages constantly about what we should believe about toys. We should believe that toys are essential for a happy childhood, that they're the only way that our children are going to be able to learn and grow, and that they are key to our children's success. So if we internalize those beliefs and we start to place a value on toys, so maybe we have a high value for imaginative toys because we want our kids to grow cognitively, or maybe we have a high value for puzzles, Legos, things that they can put together because we have now a high value for problem solving skills. This could lead us to be walking through the store and see the latest and greatest of something, or even just random things that we see on the internet or that pop up in our Amazon feeds, things like that. We may see those things, and because we have a value for this, want to purchase them. So our homes become full of all of these tangible representations of our beliefs called our kids' toys, and they become overrun, and the kids actually don't end up using most of what we have brought to our home. We can resolve that issue if we take a closer look at what we believe and what we value and let that dictate our actions in a little different way. So maybe at its core, our belief really is that we want our children to grow and thrive. That can translate into a value of providing opportunities for our children to grow and thrive. So maybe we center our values around going to a park or finding things in nature that they can play with. Or maybe we do have some problem-solving toys or things that are going to contribute, but because we also value having a home that's clutter-free, we give a container for all of these toys to live in, and it can't exceed the container. So essentially, we have totally reframed the way that we think about toys. And as we are doing that, our beliefs and values are becoming more rightly aligned with the outcomes that we want to see in our homes, and our actions are naturally going to follow. So I'm curious, what are some of the areas in your home that if you really sat down and thought about it for a while, you may also have some sort of distorted, maybe not wildly distorted, but maybe some beliefs about your things that started out with good intentions but got a little bit off track. What are some of those things that may be informing your values and the value you place on your stuff and ultimately impacting your actions? I would love to hear about that in the comments below. And if you enjoyed taking some of these more spiritual topics or theologically driven topics and applying them to our everyday life, then you should 100% be subscribed to this channel, because that's pretty much all we do here. Thanks so much for watching, and until I see you again, keep fighting the good fight.